Hi there. This is going to be a collective Akashic record reading for any and all that tune into this channel around the energies of the upcoming annual solar eclipse. I have said the pathway prayer, and I'm currently in the records live to impart the messages that want to come through. So a little bit different. This isn't just me talking. This is going to be guided and informed by being in the Akashic records. So I was inspired to do this as an antidote to a lot of the fear that's coming up, and I was curious what information I would get if I access the records, but instead of just doing it personally or one-on-one, I thought it would be very special for any that have been tuned in and supporting this channel, and or possibly I included in the prayer anyone that might also be tuning in at another time. But right now I'm recording this on March 29th, so a few days before Easter, to those that celebrate the metaphorical return of the light of consciousness. And then we're going to be going into Mercury retrograde the following day, and then the following week, Monday, April 8th, is when this solar eclipse is going to be. And that's where the moon blocks out the light of the sun temporarily. It's going to be able to be, I think, viewed. A lot of people are going to Texas to view it. Some people are superstitious and say not to view it, but that's your own agenda. I looked it up, and it's going to start around, like if you're in Texas on Central Time in the States, it's around 1:52 p.m. But then it's gonna like that's when it starts. But then it depends on where you are when it reaches full totality. And then I think it said it concludes in Eastern Time around 3:35 p.m. So however that timing translates to where you are, just know that this reading is going to be speaking to that time frame and mindfulness then. And I also wanted to just ask about there's a lot of fear in the collective right now, and so I wanted to get some guidance on that. And hopefully that's helpful. That there's so much going on in April with the planets, but that day, if you're in the western like in the west, we'll just say in the west, the planetary bodies are going to have Venus, the North Node, the Moon, the Sun, Chiron, and Mercury retrograde, all in Aries. So there's a lot of activity there. That's why there's a lot of talk and speculation happening. So, and then this is all information I looked up. I'm in the records right now, but this is all information I looked up prior to impart, before seeing what is the most important to know and what's going to be helpful at this time. So there's also that day, April 8th, the day of the annual solar eclipse. Mars is approaching Saturn and is about to wrap that up in Pisces. So why that matters is because Mars is ruling all those planetary bodies in Aries. So it actually has more influence. And it's in a sign that's closing out and dissolving things, and then it's also in balsamic phase to Saturn, so it's closing out its last 2-year cycle, and it's going to be in a new phase to Saturn, which rules reality and the earth, and it's like the consciousness that holds the earth. So definitely like a closing out there, and something like a lot of new, there's going to be a lot of new coming through. So that's why another reason I wanted to do it this way. And Neptune rules the tides in the ocean, but Saturn is like what sticks. Like Saturn is the bones. So forgive this sort of morbid metaphor, but I was just thinking of like at a crematory, when the whole body that's been of the earth has been burned. It's like it's the bones that remain. Saturn is the bare bones, the structure. And then if Mars is the archetype in consciousness that brings new life, it's like we're gonna like there's gonna be like, this is coming through the records right now, there's gonna be an incineration of what is no longer needed, and then new life springing through. So let's go ahead and just get started into the records. Is this a time that we need to fear? And let me start with asking, what's the most important to know now? And then we'll, with that underlying, should we be afraid? Is there something to be afraid of? What do we need to do to prepare for moving forward? So sort of all of that. Okay, so the first thing that is coming through is the fridge turning on. And have you heard the term fridge buzz? The lead singer of Radiohead one time did an interview back when I was a teenager, and he would coin anything that was noise, just fridge buzz. So that's coming through to me as a message of just don't listen to the noise, or let it distract you from what's in your heart or your heart's purpose. So making the conscious effort to shift down into the body, and tuning to what is in the center of your chest, what's beating there, what's happening there, instead of all this external insanity, or just very distracting, everything kind of overstimulating or vying for your attention, or just, people kind of in their own chaos. There's this message that as hard as it can be to do that, if you need to get in nature to reattune, or find like a quieter place, like affect what you can to be able to attune to your own heart, and know that everything is a vibration, and vibrations are going to be running particularly high right now, and to ask yourself the question, where do you want yours to be? And what can you do to facilitate that? Okay, I'm also seeing like waves crashing. Not necessarily on a shore, but like powerful wind, powerful storms, powerful kind of getting thrown around at sea, or like the violent lap of a wave hitting the water. But that this the message coming through that is that the movement is necessary, even if it can be a little scary, like if you are out to sea. But like a good captain, what do you do? What do you do in that situation? And you only deal with that situation when it comes. So if you're out at sea, you can't predict when that storm is going to hit. You just have to know how to deal with it when it does. But like you can't be anticipating it. And they're not bringing that through as a means of initiating fear at all. Um, that sort of relates to that Mars Saturn in Pisces. Um, there's just a movement there where things are going to change, but it's like if there's a ship lost at sea that needs to break apart, it's because it needs to break apart. So this trusting that what needs to break apart is going to at this time. And then I'm also hearing that there's like this energetic reset that's going to happen, and that there's nothing to fear. Even though times of eclipses were historically feared by the ancients, um, the best thing to do is just acknowledge that and bring respect and honor to these celestial events, not to use them to feed fear. And there's also this message to, it's a time to be more intentional and focus on some extra self-care and rest if possible and or needed. I'm hearing that the reset is energetic in nature, but just like when the power goes down or goes out and the energy goes down, it gives us a chance to disconnect from the everyday, the technology, the just kind of mindless being in automatic, even EMFs in all the cell towers, and it lets us get quiet and listen free of interference. So there's like a double message there of saying that we need a little bit of that to be able to not get into the fear, and that I don't know what's going on with my throat all of a sudden. That if the power was to go out, that it would be a good time to do that, to use that pause or that moment in time for that. Let me take a sip of water here. So you could be prepared for a possible power outage, you know, like it's going to be in the afternoon if you're in the States, but it's always good to have like candles around. But that leads to the next part of the message is this, they're showing me lighting a candle in the center of your heart, and that nothing can take away your own inner spark. Not death, not darkness, not anything, like the eternal part of your heart that's there. So they're showing me also that no matter what's going on, that is an important thing to tend to right now. And especially while the moon is blocking out the light of the sun. The sun rules the heart and the moon rules the tides on earth. So see, that kind of connects also back to the waves crashing. So while there's waves crashing and while the moon is blocking the light of the solar sun that is what gives life on earth, it's this reminder to spark your inner light at this time, to shine from the inside out instead of the other way around. So that is really, really important. So whatever kind of, if there is a meditation or a spiritual practice or just being intentional, contemplating that, you could be thinking about that up until the eclipse and or during the eclipse. It could be really powerful, especially if there's a power outage. Do that. Don't freak out. Do that. They're not telling me there's going to be a power outage. They're just giving me the reference that the pattern interruption is part of the process to getting out of old stuck patterns. So, okay, I'm also hearing that the heart is what connects the upper and lower worlds. And so that if you can retreat into the cave of the heart at this time, that would be the best sacred space to retreat to. I wonder if I should do like a little meditation for this. But knowing that no matter what, nothing can extinguish your light, like I was saying. And in fact, getting in touch with this place will only serve humanity and the collective for those that are ready to consciously access this space. Speaking of that, I cleared the space before I did this too. And lit a candle. I didn't mention that. And meditated. So right now, there is a lot of fear that is up and a lot of unknowns. So accessing the space of the heart can only be helpful. That's like an important message. And with that, action taken from a heart-centered place is going to carry more weight, quote unquote weight, but leads to more lightheartedness. Because when you're acting from the heart, it's like the center point in the connection. Where you're acting from love, and for any action you take from love is going to have, it's going to carry more of an effect forward than from fear. So they're saying that this energetic reset is like the if while there's darkness, the sparking the lighter, and that flame and that new life is a good image. So imagine doing that in your heart if you're feeling darkness or fear. Now, some people don't want to do that because they're afraid of what they'll see. So there's also this message of like, don't be afraid of what's there. The bringing the light there is so much more important. And also that the future, we tend to think of the past, present, and future as like the past is something behind us on this linear timeline, and then now is, what we're conscious of, and then the future is like, all this like we can affect, we can manifest, we can have hope, all this stuff of like the bright future, this thing we're hoping to obtain and goals. But like really the future is it's not promised, it's not guaranteed, and it by nature is dark. It hasn't happened yet. It is a dark unknown. And so the past is simply what's known, and then this now moment is here, but it's always moving. Nothing is static. And so because there's old systems and patterns that are crumbling, and because over the last 4 years, there's just been so much like atrocity and underbelly being exposed, and just the ground feels less stable, and kind of the reality we were sold is just, it's not working anymore. And the things we cling to, know, rely on, have come to trust, like how we've been conditioned, how we've been taught up. It's just like all of these things that create a routine and a pattern, like they're just not really there anymore. They're not accessible in the same way, even if we're all kind of trying to pretend they're still there, and yet there's this deeper knowing that they're not. And so that's what's causing all this, like, and then have a planetary alignment like this, and it's old as time for humans to be afraid and fear these events. Like, they used to be afraid. like the superstitions come from the not, don't look at the eclipse, don't eat during the eclipse, don't do any of that stuff because, you don't want that darkness to stick to you. I mean, that comes from somewhere, right? And it's this need to survive. But survival is fear-based. And what they're saying is that right now, the flame inside of your heart, especially if you're hearing this, you're here to shine yours at this time, and it's needed to shift the vibration from fear to love. Regardless of what's happening in the world, on the world stage, whatever projections are playing out, if everyone could do this, it would change everything. I'm hearing, but it's not about others, it's about what you can do that has influence. And it's not a time to point fingers anymore, it's a time to point the finger at your own heart and investigate what's going on there instead of pointing it externally. So that wasn't the message that I thought would come through, but it really resonates really strongly. So now I'm going to, from there, I'm going to ask if there's any animal allies that want to come through to support us at this time with this process. And, oh my God, there's, there's a bunch. Okay, so the first one that wants to come through is the owl. So that's going to remind us to not be afraid of the dark, or help remind us to not be afraid of the dark, but to instead listen more intently. That's the medicine. And you'll know when to move and what to do if you're listening. Have you heard that, like, prayer is conversing with source, but listening is almost more powerful. So if you're attuned to your heart and to source, that's going to be informing you, not this noise or that fridge buzz that was spoken of. And that's also how you access your own wisdom. Owls are known to be like the wise old owl. And then, not much phases them. So there's this element of maybe not getting caught up in the hype and maybe not being phased and kind of taking a few steps back. Because owls, they're also very stealth. So how can you be more stealth? There's also a divine feminine energy there. The dark, the nighttime, the feminine, the creative energy. At night, that's also when the moon comes out. So this is like while the lunar moon is blocking out the light of the sun. I also hear her saying her protection is with you if you call on it, if you feel that that's necessary or something you'd like to do. I'm just extending my thanks, gratitude, and utmost respect to the owl ally. And then strangely enough, on the flip side, the eagle is also strongly coming through, which is going to be that solar daytime energy that's masculine, fire and air. And, birds of flight also rule springtime energy. And then the element of air is also the element of the heart chakra. So that you need wind to fly or soar. And this is, again, just coming back to the heart. And then, obviously with spring, there's new, fresh energy. So I'm hearing that it's probably a good time to do something tending to your own heart, whether that's like exercise, yoga, meditations, Simply just putting your hand there and breathing. Any kind of like eating green food. Of course, I always say nature, just anything that helps you consciously come into your heart. They won't let this go, how significant the heart is, the heart health, tending and attuning to. That's a little of an aside, but getting back to the message of the eagle, specifically, he wants you to know that it's the message on high, that he's coming through with messages of on high in the heavens, and that the heavens and the energy of your ancestors as allies or protection are available if called on. If you feel that's also something you need at this time that can be helpful and support you. And you have to call on them because helpful spirits will never interfere unless you are asking, because out of respect for free will, your free will. There might be few exceptions to that rule in like really critical situations, but on the everyday. So this is just a reminder that you can ask the eagle for this if needed. And probably more importantly, to bring on your inner observer. And so whether, I don't know where that is for you, if that's what all this heart business is about, or just consider, your center or the still point that observes without attaching to what's happening. It's just observing, the observation consciousness. If we can shift to that, Eckhart Tolle talks about this as like, if you're not sure what I'm talking about or you need help getting there, it's that like, let's say your thoughts are just running rampant with fear, or like, I don't know what's next, I don't know what to do, or being mean to yourself, or picking on someone, or like whatever it is, and just to stop and say, who's the one that's having this thought? Well, then that's one of the ways I've found to be the most effective. Then it's the witness, you're not the thought, you're the one witnessing having the thought, and it creates this little bit of space to be with the witness consciousness. And they're saying that being the witness consciousness at this time, just like the eagle, has great power, and that can help pluck out anything that's not helpful to staying in the heart, into some of you, or soaring to your fullest potential. So if you notice any of that's up for you, or this resonates, that is coming through really strongly. And, take what you like, leave the rest for someone else. However, speaking of eagle's prey, ironically, the mouse also really wants to come through, which is like the exact opposite, of having these great birds of prey, and then what they feed on is wanting to come through, which is kind of fascinating. But the mouse is coming through with the message of, just because you're small or unjustly feared, or if you feel ineffectual, that's just simply not true. You have impact and influence. And also, I'm getting the image of, like a 1950s housewife jumping up on a chair because she sees a mouse. This old programming of what was, or what society fears. It's like as harmless as a mouse. Now, what we fear in mice is that they carry disease, and that's, that's a decent thing to fear. But I'm hearing it said that disease is actually dis-ease, so without ease, that's created in the mind, being detached from the heart. And so how can you come back to ease in your body, your life, and your frequency? The fear will just feed the fridge buzz, and it just adds to that loud, annoying zzz. So if you're feeling small and or helpless as a mouse, the mouse's message is that knowing you're not alone in finding a community of other like minds to turn to for support and find your people and your frequency, and just have this knowing that with them you'll be able to navigate and have what you need. So there's also this message of like having what you need as you need it, and getting away from greed and wants and selfishness, and just this like, what do I need? What do others need? This ability to attune to needs instead of wants or control, or like being too big for your, like how, I'm also hearing that how like everything in the US has kind of gotten like, we've gotten like, it's just kind of gotten out of control. And so that coming back to the essentials is really important. I feel like there's a little mouse that is saying thank you for hearing his little pipsqueaks. Because it doesn't matter how small you are, if the intention is coming from love. It's you don't have to underestimate your impact, even if it's small. It might have further reach than you know. And then I also feel like something just tugged on my shoulder, and they're talking to me specifically. So that message might be for me and not you, but the rest of this is for you. And if it relates to you, please, by all means. So there's also a message of finding your own way, giving yourself permission to go out of bounds of old conditioning, or what society feels like those safe bounds are, that's going out the window. And but this light in your heart is what's going to bring about really good change, and that's going to be this energetic reset coming with this eclipse. Whew. See, that little mouse had really, really strong message, like almost a little stronger than the birds of prey. It's really cool. Thank you, little mouse. They can really be so cute. Okay, so I'm also hearing, before we close out with the mouse, to not let the trivial things scare you, not let the, like, not making a what's that phrase, that don't make a mound out of a molehill. So a little bit of mole energy coming through. And don't be like the silly housewife from past programming. If you were to see something, to just jump up on a chair afraid, like there's ways to handle things that don't have to be quite so reactionary, even if action needs taken. That can also feed back into the witnessing consciousness. The observer can help make a more discerning choice, and the not being afraid from the owl. See how it's all connected? This is really cool. Okay, I'm loving this, bringing the animal allies in. This has been inspired from some of my shamanic work. So I'm bringing in some earth shamanic energy into this more ethereal, accessing the Akashic records. So again, balancing the lower and the upper is also where the heart does. So there's some powerful energy there. But yeah, we're deleting, we're refreshing past programming. It's just this great energetic reset, if that helps you as a way to look at it. And every creature, including you, has something to contribute. Whether you understand it or not. So deep respect and sacredness for all life, the heart and the sun. and give this attention at this time. So just let that soak into you. And I'm also seeing like paddles, you know, when someone has a heart attack and they're trying to restore the heart, restarting the heart. And the message is, you know, we all have this survival mechanism built into us, and surviving's great. It's how, you know, obviously if you're here listening to this, your ancestors have been through a lot. You've been through a lot to get to this point. And so there is this like instinctual back brain that I mean, you're programmed for that, and that's okay. It's just, that's another thing that's gotten out of control in our society. It's like that. And so I'm hearing that even though the greatest masters, confronting death is one of the hardest things, I'm hearing them say it's also not, there's nothing to fear there, and what needs to go will go, and what needs to be reborn will. So all this Aries fire energy is like some phoenix energy coming through. And you know, that just when it's your time, it's your time. Like, yes, we have free will and choices. Some could argue that free will is an illusion, but that's a whole nother philosophical debate they don't want me to get into. They just, they're saying to just have this deeper trust of whatever happens will happen. Like, that's actually even a good motto of whatever happens, happens, and I'll be there for it. That's also a good way to come back to the moment and get in the heart. So the next thing I want to ask is what I asked at the beginning is like, should we be afraid at this time, or is there any preparations that we need to take? So again, they're showing me the boat that gets caught in a storm. Like, all you can do is what you can do in the moment to weather the storm. Sometimes you make it through the storm, sometimes you don't. And like, that's really the best there is. Because even if you had everything perfectly set up, like, there's still outside elements you can't control. So you just have to deal with what's happening as it's happening. Whatever happens, happens. And I'm also hearing that the only thing to fear is fear itself. Classic. You could even meditate on that. I'm also hearing a fear of being unloved. So this, again, coming back to the heart of, so not only is there survival fear, there's also this like heart wounding that's going to be known at this time. So how can you be more gentle and tending to the space within? Boy, we're also driven by this need to be loved, and can all do such atrocious things to either like seek the illusion of love, or just have all these maladaptive coping tendencies if we didn't get the love we needed, on and on and on. But they're saying that like, you can spark that inner light within, and you can access everything there, and consciously bring it forth, and consciously ask for help, and consciously it's a little bit harder to like give it to yourself, but that it's there, it's within you. Everything you seek is within you, and if you can find it within you first, that's where that spark and that lighter comes through of new life. So what do you want to, like, what new life do you want to spark despite all this past stuff? It's just like crumbling before our very eyes. And how can we work with what is and what's happening and who's around us, and stay in this witnessing consciousness to create from there? Because any kind of action or preparation taken out of fear, it's like tainted by that energy. So if you're preparing because you think something really bad's going to happen, because you're like listening to the news or just people that want clickbait or whatever, then those actions are like, that might keep you alive, but it doesn't mean it's going to lead to anything good. Now, if you're hearing something and it resonates, and you're taking action because of attuning to your body and feeling a frequency of resonance, or you're listening and you're hearing something within tell you, your intuition, what to do, where to go in the moment, and you take action from that, it's coming from the body, the present moment, and it's rooted in love. So that's gonna have a different consequence rippling out into the future. So whatever question you're posing to the current times, they're saying come back to what is your heart telling you. And if you can't hear your heart, it's time to get in tune with that. I'm just going to take a breath. This is like, wow. So yeah, contemplate on this. It's the inside out approach, not the outside in, is going to be the new approach. Water, the theme of water keeps coming through is really significant. So having a fresh water source, having a source of water, staying hydrated, even just the metaphorics of being able to flow and tune in, be in that flow of the moment of what's happening. You can have base preparations, but beyond that, it's not really going to matter. And again, don't feed the fear. Like dates, times, and predictions, it just feeds that vibration into the collective, and that could be causal. So you can help neutralize that. In my lifetime, this is not the records talking, this is me sharing briefly, I had Y2K at the turning of 1999 to 2000, where they thought the computers were going to go haywire and the world was going to end. And then there was like the whole 2012, the Mayan calendar ending. And there's been like enough where nothing's that bad has happened. That there's this, now I'm hearing them say there's this reminder to disengage from whatever, to just accept that that's human nature, that's that programmed animal back brain, but how can we get to a higher witnessing consciousness? Because regardless of what's happening, that's where better decisions are going to be made. And then again, that idea of bracing and anticipating getting hit actually causes more damage and harm in the body than just getting hit. Same thing, sometimes they say drunk drivers survive car crashes more than if you haven't been drinking. I'm not advocating drinking and driving by any means. What I'm saying is that idea is if you're loose, flexible, and in a flow, your body can respond to what's happening better than if it's clenched, restricted, and tight. Because the more rigid you are, the more likely something is to shatter instead of bend. So there's this message to bend. Also with the message of just thinking about getting hurt, they're saying violence stems from the need to control and being disconnected from the heart. So that's why they're encouraging the significance of connecting to your heart at this time, tending to your own inner heart, your own inner heartbreak. If you need to cry for the collective, cry for the collective. If you need to cry for what you've been through, cry, hold the space, find someone to help you hold the space, attune to the animals, breathe, like whatever it is that this loving tenderness towards that thing in between your rib cage that's beating and never stops beating or working for you until you take your last breath. Another nice relaxing thing to do, this is coming to me, this isn't from the records, this is my yoga instructor coming through, is just doing legs up the wall, where you lay back, put your legs up the wall. That gives the heart a little break. Helps reset the nervous system, reverse the blood flow, find some calm, even just doing it for a few minutes. I need to do that more, honestly. I used to do it all the time. So don't let the fridge buzz noise distract you from what I'm saying. The fridge literally kicked on when I said don't let the noise distract you from what's in your heart. So the overall message is this. That's where we started with the fridge buzz. That was like the first thing when I got in the records. So don't let the distractions, the fear mongering, any of it pull you off center. And remember to not, if you can avoid it, point the finger outward, but instead point it inward and tend to what's there. If you notice you're doing that, just remember that blame is a way to discharge shame, but that it affects no change. And we're in a time of great change. And you can't change what's on the outside of your sphere. Really, you can't. But you can have influence, and you can lead by example, and you can care, and you can communicate. And you can communicate clearly what's in your heart without this need to point daggers or armor up and cause more harm. So ahimsa, non-harm, moving forward with non-harm, giving sacredness to all creatures, knowing that any violence is out of this need to survive and control and not be in the heart. So how can we be in the heart? And how also, with that theme of possibly feeling unloved or unlovable or unseen, like how can you use those wounds or what you've learned through trying to heal those wounds and share that as medicine for others instead of it just becoming another defense or another weapon? Take action where you need to take action in whatever situation you find yourself in, but stop and realize it's all a reflection of you. And that can sometimes be hard to hear, right? Because whatever we have intentionally kind of had shamed out of us or conditioned into us, that we've pushed out of our conscious mind, it's still living in the subconscious, and then it's showing up in our external reality. So, but it's all us. It's just like a dream, right? You can have a dream about other people, but the best dream interpreters will use one lens of, well, what is this aspect of your consciousness? So if there's something that's really difficult on the outside, there's probably something in us we've repressed and denied, and that's causing a distortion. So how can we honor and embrace that within us? And then it can possibly lose its charge externally. And again, if everyone could do this work, the result would be pretty great. It would shift us to something else entirely. So easier said than done. I can tell I'm in the records because I would have tripped over trying to say that. That came out. that came out beautifully. So also this message of this whatever is been banished to the subconscious as not acceptable, there's normally shame around it. And the only thing that nullifies shame is the power of love in our own hearts. And we can do that. We can do that inside out. We can do that. Easier said than done, but there's value in the effort and the inquiry. And I hate even bringing up this cliche, but like the point of finger, 3 point, back at you. So point those, if you catch yourself pointing a finger, take those 3 and just tap your heart. Can you hear the microphone? I'm tapping the microphone. Tap your heart. That's another way to just come back to what's there. I'm hearing them say they know it's really hard in this climate with the weather and with politics and with all of it. But that is the message that really wanted to come through at this time of the total solar eclipse of the heart. Just take a breath into that, into your heart. Take what resonates, leave the rest. Thank you so much for listening, for tuning in, for attuning to your own inner being and doing the harder thing. I hope something here was helpful for you. And with that, I'm going to close, and I'm going to close out the records, and I wish you well.